Dear students, welcome to UGC EPG Pathashala on Human Rights and Duties. In the unit on National Mechanisms for Protection and Enforcement of Human Rights, we take up human rights codes in this module. As we saw in the very first module, I talked about the National Protection System for Human Rights. In that, you have a legislature, executive, judiciary, and civil society consisting of NGOs and National Human Rights Commission as some of the key elements in the National Human Rights Protection System. In fact, in 1993, the Protection of Human Rights Act was adopted, and that envisages the setting up of National Human Rights Commission at the center, State Human Rights Commission in states, and human rights codes. We have already seen the role played by the Supreme Court of India, particularly in relation to public interest litigations concerning rights of detainees, right to clean environment, gender justice, bonded labor. And today, we are going to, in this module, take up the role of human rights codes in protection and promotion of human rights. At the end of this module, you will know what are the provisions in the law relating to human rights codes, and you will also understand the practical difficulties at the ground level in the way of effective functioning of human rights codes, and what legal reform is required, and what are the various judgments by courts with regard to the functioning of human rights codes. The judiciary is the custodian of fundamental rights under the Constitution of India. It has a clear mandate for protection and promotion of human rights. And Part 3 and Part 4 of the Constitution seek to protect a range of human rights. And the judiciary, as I said, has been the custodian of fundamental rights ever since independence, and it has been trying to protect it through various ways. Yet, a need has been felt for creation of new institutions for quote unquote better protection of human rights, of these rights, and which would complement the codes. The Protection of Human Rights Act, in other words, says human rights must be protected, and in particular at the grassroots level, the National Human Rights Commission, the State Human Rights Commission, and at the district level, human rights codes were envisaged in this backdrop. What are the relevant legal provisions relating to human rights codes? In fact, if you look at the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, in its preamble, which really captures the spirit of the legislation, it states that the Act has been enacted to provide for the constitution of the National Human Rights Commission at the center, and there is an enabling provision for constitution of SHRCs at the states and human rights codes for better protection and promotion of human rights and matters connected with these objectives. The lawmakers, in other words, wanted to secure better protection of human rights through these specialized institutions which are supposed to complement the judiciary. If you look at Chapter 6 of the Protection of Human Rights Act, it deals with human rights codes, and they were supposed to be established in order to provide speedy trial of offences arising out of the violation of human rights. And in fact, if you look at the Section 3 of the Protection of Human Rights Act, it says the state government may, with the concurrence of the Chief Justice of the High Court, by notification, specify for each district a court of session to be a human rights court to try these offences. As you know, there are many human rights violations which need to be redressed, and the redress needs to be provided in a speedy manner, in a decentralized way. As per Section 31, for every human rights court, the state government shall, by notification, specify a public prosecutor or appoint an advocate who has been in practice as an advocate for not less than 7 years as a special public prosecutor for the purpose of conducting cases in that court. There have been a number of practical difficulties faced by human rights courts. In fact, if you look at the Act, there is a lack of clarity on what offences really constitute human rights violations, what offences can be tried by this human rights court. Just as you have a criminal procedure code or a civil procedure code, what shall be the procedure to be adopted by these courts has not been specified anywhere. Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act is really silent as to who will take cognizance of these offences, and there are no time limits have been laid down for the disposal of these cases. In fact, noting that Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act is inadequate, defective, requires an amendment, modification. The National Human Rights Commission took up this matter through its annual report. It stressed the need to equip human rights courts both in terms of personnel and competence as well as financial autonomy. India submits a universal periodic review at the Human Rights Council. At the second such review, the Human Rights Council announced that the central government has continued to let national commissions function independently, but given them no added powers or greater resources. In fact, the government is supposed to rectify this deficiency which has been highlighted by the Human Rights Council through some appropriate action. It also said the state human rights commissions are mostly moribund. They do not have necessary infrastructure or they do not have necessary staff, and very few human rights courts have been set up. And this is a matter of concern, and they should be set up almost in every district. And the National Human Rights Commission itself has made a number of recommendations in relation to human rights courts and related law reform. In fact, the Commission said where an offence under any law for the time being in force also involves the violation of human rights, the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court, by notification, constitute one or more human rights courts to try the offence. A human rights court shall be presided over by a person who is or has been a sessions judge and who shall take cognizance and try offences relating to human rights. The Commission also made some more recommendations relating to human rights courts. In fact, the Commission, while based on the practical difficulties, said these it shall be competent for the Human Rights Court to award such sentence as may be authorized by law without prejudice to any penalty that may be awarded. Include the power to award compensation, relief, both interim and final. The NHRC also recommended that an appeal against the orders of the Human Rights Court shall lie to the High Court. But these recommendations have not yet been implemented. And on the issue of jurisdiction, the Commission said a committee headed by Justice Balakrishnan, the then chairperson of NHRC, and comprising Justice Sri Syriac Joseph, member, and Justice D. Murugesan, member of the NHRC, and Justice Sri Vijender Jain, chairperson of the Haryana State Human Rights Commission, was in fact constituted on this issue to go into the jurisdiction and mandate of the Human Rights Court and come up with a recommendation. In fact, this committee observed that instead of a separate legislation, what is required is really an amendment of Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act, and which will be an appropriate course of action, and gave details of what amendment is required to be made and what offences should be identified, which could be tried by the human rights courts, along with the specification of the procedure for the courts. And this also has been a subject matter of litigation. In fact, there was a case which was handled in the Madras High Court. Tamil Nadu Palamudi Makkal Sangam moved a petition in the Chennai High Court, and in response to that, the High Court mentioned that the main question framed were relating to the scope of jurisdiction of the human rights courts and the human rights offences. The Madras High Court clarified a number of aspects, including the difference between Human Rights Commission on the one hand and Human Rights Court on the other. The human rights offences, procedures to be followed by the Human Rights Court. In fact, the Madras High Court gave a number of findings on the setting up of human rights courts. In fact, the court said there is no need or desirability to amend the Protection of Human Rights Act and specify the offences arising out of violation of human rights, which can be tried by human rights courts. And the Madras High Court further said, in the light of the definition of quote-unquote offence as contained in Section 2N of the Code, offence arising out of violation of human rights means such act or omission on the part of the instrumentality of the state, that is to say, public servants, punishable by law, or the time being in force, as reliable to life, liberty and dignity of individual and nothing else. The Madras High Court, which really considered this matter at some depth, also said there can be no prohibition for the courts in India to apply the principles underlying such covenants, treaties, etc. in the process of interpretation if they are not in conflict with municipal law or not opposed to fundamental rights of under Chapter 3 of the Constitution of India. And this has been laid down in Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan by the Apex Court as well. A Human Rights Court is not a court or tribunal of a court constituted under Article 323A or 323B of the Constitution. The Madras High Court, on the issue of setting up of Human Rights Court, further said, Human Rights Court is a court constituted under Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act as a special court in the cadre of a court of session with powers of a court of original jurisdiction. The constitution and designation of a court of session in each and every district as Human Rights Court, a special court with powers of a court of original jurisdiction for trial of all offences arising out of violation of human rights, irrespective of their classification into various categories of offences. The Madras High Court also said it is correct to state that Human Rights Court, being a criminal court, has no power to grant compensation except under Section 357 of the Code. It is desirable and necessary that Human Rights Court, by way of amendment, to be brought in, must have to be invested with the exclusive jurisdiction in the matter of award of compensation to the victims of human rights violations. Madras High Court further said it is correct to state that the scheme of Protection of Human Rights Act in constituting a National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission and Human Rights Court indicates in no uncertain terms the NHRC and SHRC are akin to the Commission of Inquiry set up under Commission of Inquiry Act. The Supreme Court also has had an occasion to consider directions on Human Rights Court, and the Supreme Court said in order to ensure speedy trial in cases of human rights violation, the Supreme Court has asked all the states to set up special courts in each district. It has also directed the state governments to install CCTV cameras in all prisons apart from police stations within 1 year to keep an eye on activities which may lead to human rights violations of inmates. In pursuance, a number of state governments have complied with these directions, while many others are in the process of doing so. The state governments have also been directed by the Supreme Court to take appropriate action in terms of Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act in regard to setting up specifying human rights courts. Now, in conclusion, if you look at the Protection of Human Rights Act, it defines human rights, and Section 30 of the Protection of Human Rights Act stipulates that the state government may, with the concurrence of the Chief Justice of the High Court concerned, may specify by a notification a court of session in each district to be a human rights court to try human rights offences. And Section 31 of the Protection of Human Rights Act further provides that for every human rights court, the state government shall, by a notification, specify a public prosecutor. In practice, there is a lack of clarity on the precise nature of offences that can be tried in the human rights courts, and it has been a great impediment in their effective functioning unless there is a amendment to the Protection of Human Rights Act on the lines suggested by the National Human Rights Commission. It looks like the human rights courts will take a considerable time before they can be really regarded as effective mechanisms for securing speedy redressal to citizens in a decentralized, in a swift manner. Thank you.